We had a lot of good conversation before this, but I just
Now the
um,
stuffy, we don't have to really say too much right with any client with it because the midwives, I mean, they
we
pretty
try
much have it that you have to have it.
well, we want to be informed and educated about what it is and the options that are available. But it is up to their practitioner.
Okay.
But we just support them because it can be a concern.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, so what do we do? Because if someone,
So we let them know what it is. There are reprints that we can get
Mhm.
or even just print something out on the internet off of Google, and it gives you this parameters of because it is a bacteria
right?
and it can affect the baby. So they would want to give an antibiotic prior to delivery.
Mhm.
So they'll give you an IV push with the antibiotic in it. They'd like to at least have 12 hours before baby delivers, actually.
Okay. I know my first one, they said I had strep B and I just had to take like a pill and that was it.
Okay.
But I don't know, maybe they gave me an IV, but I was so young they didn't tell me.
Sure. Um, but they just want to make the precautions, having the precautions there. If we do the antibiotic, it also messes up the microbiome for mama and baby.
Mhm.
But on the other side, it could be significant for the little one. So, and then with false labor or pre-labor, the most important thing about finding out whether it's faultless labor, one of the things that I would tell the clients is if it's real labor, go take a shower or take a bath. If you come out and the contractions stop, it's just pre-labor.
Do you tell them like drink a cup of water, making sure like all that too, or
Yeah. Whatever your that's my go-to is, and go ahead and lay down. And if they stop, because when it's real labor, it's not going to stop.
right?
Sometimes those contractions are irritating. So they're prodromal labor, which just keeps the uterus contracting, and the mom gets exhausted. So I encourage them to take a bath with Epsom salts for the magnesium, or
Mhm.
take a magnesium tablet with all three magnesiums in there, or something with Celtic salt. Celtic salt has all three magnesiums in it. They put it half a teaspoon in a glass of water with a squeezed lemon and lemon water. It helps alkaline. It also helps with, discouraging that muscle spasming. And we just always have to remind the mom that it takes a while for that cervix to efface and dilate.
Now, I was reading that prodromal labor is becoming more and more common. Is that really true, or is it just people are becoming more aware?
I think people are becoming more aware, and they want to be more informed.
Okay.
But those who do have it, it's significant. Like my daughter Jamie,
Terrific. Yeah, I can't imagine.
it really exhausts you because you're not sleeping. It just gets crazy. And then when she had the twins, it's one thing when you have a singleton, it's another when you have a set of twins. And it becomes crazy.
I
You
imagine.
know. So
And what do you tell clients if we know this is what's happening? Because since, I mean, that can be like days of labor.
it can be weeks.
Yeah. So what do we do to
You,
support?
you support them by telling them to talk to their practitioner and let them know. Encourage them to take, you know, the Himalayan salts or Epsom salts bath.
Mhm.
Even it's the magnesium drink from the
Mhm.
Now.
Yeah.
That's helpful.
Okay.
It just stops some of the irritation, right? The labor progresses in 6 ways, and the cervix softens and ripens, and the position of the cervix changes. When the mom is getting an exam, I don't know if you see this drawing, but the cervix is pushed way back. So when the midwives are coming in to do an exam to see how far along, she reaches back and she reaches back and reaches back, tries to have the tips of her fingers reach that cervix. When the head comes down, farther down, the cervix comes forward. So when you see the client is going to get an exam, you want to encourage her to relax, take a deep breath, and be patient, and to relax her legs, so that some midwives have short fingers, so it's difficult to reach that cervix and they can't really tell how far it is. Feel your tip of your nose. Feel the tip of your nose. That's a non-pregnant cervix. Touch your earlobe. That's a pregnant cervix. So that's what they're feeling for, that tiny little lip. So, and they've got gloves on. So it's faint.
Like flat?
No, it's just the soft edge, the very soft edge.
It's different.
So,
And
as that cervix thins and shortens or effaces, it will be, like 1.5 inches, and there'll be 3 centimeters, 4 centimeters open. It begins to get paper thin. So when you're reaching for this and they're looking for this tiny little edge that's barely touchable, that's why they're in there trying to find the edges, just to make sure that the cervix isn't in the way. So the percentages means there's 0%, meaning there's no thinning or shortening. 50% means the cervix is still about halfway, that you can actually feel that thickness. And then when it's 100% paper thin, you can't find it. The centimeters from 3 to 4 on up gets wider and wider, and it depends. Each practitioner's fingers measure differently. So what they have found for them, that this might be 6 centimeters on one midwife, and another midwife, it might be something different in her measurement. She might call it a 4. It all depends on the practitioner and how they perceive it for themselves. It's a perception. As that head continues to come down, let's see. As the head continues to come down, see how it's really thick? And then it gets thinner and thinner. And there's a bulge on top of the baby's head right there. The forewaters is there to protect the compression of that baby's head. So they might feel the bag of waters and actually not feel the suture line on the baby's head itself. If they can feel the suture line, you can ask for the patient to understand, what are the suture lines? What's the position of the baby? So knowing that information, so if this mom has got, seems to have something going on the left or the right side. Hold on, let me put it here. On the left or the right side, we can tell by the position of the baby's head and shoulders why she's feeling it where she is. Some babies are tucked up into the rib cage and they bruise the mom's ribs. And it's the position. So we want the baby to be in the right position. And the way we can find out if the baby is in a good position is the mother's comfort. She doesn't have arbitrary pinching, so to speak. And then when you look at the pelvis on the chart, 0 is with the ischial spines inside the pelvis. When you've put your fingers inside the vagina and you lean over one way, there's an ischial spine, and there's another one on the other way. You can feel it, and there's a nerve. There is a nerve that touches those two spines that they would give a paracervical block, and they would shoot the nerve and put a numbing medication years ago. They don't do it very much now, but back in the 70s, they did that a lot. And so by the minus signs, that means the head is still above the pubic bone area and the ischial spines. So if the baby's still floating, they say floating, it's at least 4 centimeters above the ischial spine, or the head is not engaged, and the midwives can just feel that head flipping and flopping all over. And when they're doing the exam to see if the head is engaged, once the head is engaged, we start going down in numbers. So -3, -2. And then when we get to 0 station, they might tell you it's 0 station. We want to know, because then we can help the mom manage her labor in a more realistic form. Then anytime we have +1, 2, 3, that means that head is getting down and below the pubic bone. And it's got to come up and around, and preferably it's this part of the baby's head that comes out. It would be the best to have that part of the head come out. As the baby descends, it might have the molding. Did your kids have moldings, Christine? Did you notice?
No, mine didn't.
Okay. But a lot of times, like this other baby we were just at, she had quite a bit of molding, and she had quite a bit of cropping to get out and under. So you can see they'll push and then they'll come back and push and come back until they can get underneath that pubic bone to start to get that to the next place of rotation. So the baby will have to rotate its head to get underneath the pubic bone, and then it's going to have to turn to maneuver the shoulders out. So some moms can really feel it. And you can see it as the head starts to turn, the shoulders start to turn with a really well managed presentation. We can observe that.
Mm-hmm.
So the timing of the contractions are important for us to do, right? We want to, and we were doing that, Marilyn, right, with the app.
Mm-hmm.
We're using the contraction app. So the contraction begins, we mark it. We want to know if it's over a minute long, so that we know that it's an effective contraction. So this mom had most of her contractions were just coming to a minute long. But when they're getting to 90 seconds or more, those contractions the humdingers were really pushing down to get that baby expelled out.
So that's why you were saying every 3 is when you were counting?
Yeah, because if you notice that at the beginning, that the third one is a humdinger.
Yeah.
That one lasted longer. It was much more effective. The mom was much more focused. So
Mhm.
the uterus is trying to figure out, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? Especially first time moms. And so they develop a pattern. They think every 5 minutes, but the one that's every 15 minutes is the actual real working contraction.
Mhm.
So by knowing the length of time, the contractions don't get any harder, they just last longer.
Right.
So it's good to ask the clients to keep a record or to chart, especially if we're not going to be there for a while, just to start to use the app and chart their contractions. So we get feedback. Then we ask them, where are you feeling that contraction, right? And anything, 20 to 50 seconds long is really just early labor. It's just the early begins. Once this mom doesn't really want to talk to you anymore, she's just concentrating, her contractions are, 90 seconds or longer, then this mom is actually doing something.
Mhm.
She might not be in the hospital. They want her to be dilating a centimeter an hour, which not necessarily is a responsible way of thinking about it. Her emotional signpost might be giving it away, that she's actually going faster because of her emotions are showing it. But if she's still got her makeup on, we're still playing the Mario games.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're not doing anything except for giving her emotional support.
Now,
Mhm.
normally, do you guys stay with people in that time of labor or not?
Well, this time we did because we're so far away.
But
Yeah, but a lot of times we wouldn't.
okay.
But with first time moms, you have to know them, right? The biggest thing is they want our love and our support and our human being in the room.
Mhm.
They want to feel safe. And we go through the yearnings list and the communication cards to kind of get an idea what is the most important things for that couple. And if safety and security is one of those top ones, that's how it can show up for us, being there longer so that they can relax and allow labor to happen. That's another reason why having somebody close by. So for example, if Marilyn was the labor support and she could go in and say, you guys are doing fine, call me back in 2 hours and I'll come back over, I'll check on you. Somebody's close by, they don't feel as vulnerable. That's why it was important that we get her to the birth sooner than later,
Mhm.
so that they knew that there's somebody there.
Mhm.
That's important. So in chapter 3 on page 59, we're studying moving through the stages of labor and what that's going to look like. Compare labor and running a marathon, right? The knowledge to what's expected, the planning. It's really important if your clients have not had any childbirth classes that we become an educator. We recommend books, we recommend videos, like The Business of Being Born. We recommend them to do relaxation exercises. I have them do rehearsals, like to call mom in the middle of the day and say contraction begins, and she's just got to relax for 1 minute so that she gets in the habit of what that might be, that they have their favorite foods on the refrigerator and they have those foods in the refrigerator, so the mom will be encouraged to eat her favorite foods and less likely to throw the food up if it's her favorite foods. That she has adequately supported. Our job early on is to make sure that there is a system in place before baby and after baby, so that we know that she has everything possible to have it be peace of mind. More than anything, peace of mind. Once the cervix has begun to ripen, everybody wants to know, well, when's labor going to start? Right? That's the almighty question. And they may or may not lose the mucus plug. They may or may not feel like their sinuses are all full, which their sinus tissue and their bottom tissue is related. So a lot of times
I never experienced losing a mucus plug, so to see that was just like mind blowing to me. I was a little freaked out because I didn't know that it looked that way.
uh-huh.
And that was definitely a aha moment for me, because I was like, what is that? Like, what's all over her leg?
Yep.
No, that's what it was.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, right? And
Yeah.
And early on when we're doing these births, it's good to remember that you compose yourself, right? You were composed and professional. And then we debrief afterwards. We talk about the births, we experience it. I love the fact that Rachel, Monica, and Colleen and Emily are so willing to teach throughout the whole birth process. That's an advantage for us to have that available. We ask the different questions about how long is pushing stage. Everybody's different. So some moms, 1 or 2 pushes, they're gone. Others could be a couple hours. Really is more related to the position of the baby and how that would work. And the second stage of the birthing is, the baby, which is being born. That process, whatever it is, how long it is, in the different positions, to expect to support the mom if she's standing, squatting, laying down, laying on her side, laboring down, any and all of those positions, preferably by the mom's choice that works better and well for her and baby, that we are there to support and encourage. If you find the mom is exhausted, we have to get that mom to lay down at some point. But some moms are not comfortable, right? They're not comfortable laying down, but we have to find some way to get her rest in between contractions. So, and it can be in a variety of places. We're all over the place with this mom. And finally, the husband and her, they went into the bedroom. She was laying on her side. Between contractions, she was falling asleep, but she had the pillow between her legs and she was just laboring down. What I call labor down. That's what they call it in the hospital. So they would put a peanut between their legs and hold it. And you want to make sure that the peanut is balanced. So you put a pillow underneath both sides of the peanut so that the leg doesn't get twisted to support. And the mom can rest between contractions. So this mom was falling asleep. She'd get maybe 1 or 2 moments in the sleep pattern, and then the contraction would wake her up. You know, the caregiver, us, we're observing everything. We're checking to see if she's gone to the bathroom, if she's eaten, how long she's been at this, if the dad has done anything to recharge himself. We were telling the dad to take a nap and he wasn't listening. But he was having a hard time to some extent as well. When you finally got them in the bedroom, he's like, his head is bobbing. It's hard. It's hard not to like put your foot down and say, this isn't an option anymore. Or I say, you're barking up the wrong mom. Because they have so many kids, it's just like another kid saying, no, I didn't want to do that. But we all took turns taking a nap. We needed to. Everybody found a place that they could finally lay down to nap. I believe that it's really important that we work as teams to have that option and not to be the lone person. Hospitals are a little different, it's more difficult, but you still need to find places to rest. So I like to present as a team for doula care. So having that another person working with you, even if you're at a hospital and you've got a rhythm going with the client and you're 6 hours straight on, if your other partner is out in the waiting room, they can at least give you the short break to go to dinner or get lunch, take a walk, call home, to refresh the brain and preferably put their feet up somewhere. I think once you go into a reclined position, it really helps a lot to reset your energy, your electrical charge, to give you the endurance. Marilyn, what was that like for you?
I didn't really get it until I came home. Being in the room, it was just, there was so much going on in my head. I did sleep a tiny bit. You were saying my alarm went off too early, but it's like even then I wasn't sleeping really, more as just kind of laying there with my eyes closed, and I was so nervous and so excited and just wanted to get back to it. It wasn't until I came home that later that evening where you told me to just stay home because nothing was happening. After I got my kids settled and I fed them and everything, and I laid down myself for like, I want to say a good 3 hours. Like, I think I got a solid 3 hours, I want to say. That's when I really felt recharged. When I came back after I'd been home for that
Right.
stretch of about, I think I was home almost 5 hours.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, because I think I left about 6-ish and I didn't come back until what, 11?
11, yeah, right.
Yeah, it wasn't, I didn't get that real solid rest until I came home and I just laid down, turned my lights off, and I knew that my kids were good. I knew that there was nothing else that could come in and really bother, like wake me up. That's when I really felt recharged and I felt so much better.
Yeah, so as you get to do more births, right? You'll find you'll be able to like shut it all down. Right. So I fell asleep on the couch because I sleep better hearing her screams. I slept better hearing her screams. When the screaming changed to a different tone, I was wide awake.
Yeah, I did notice that. I was just gonna tell you, I didn't feel like you slept at all, because at one point you were there, you were quiet, but then it's like it didn't seem like you were asleep, because then you sat up and you were like right there in the action, but then you kind of listened to her, and I saw the way you were looking at it, and then you're like, and then you kind of went off again, but it wasn't really like, I felt like you didn't really sleep, but now I see you could hear the difference.
I could hear the difference, and I slept solid.
Really?
Yeah, I slept solid. And,
Wow.
but I've got that selective hearing too. And knowing that everybody else is around, right? But if
Mhm.
it was only me, that wouldn't make it a challenge. You would put such attention that you were the only doula in the room.
Mhm.
You wouldn't allow yourself to wind it down.
I think that's what Dad was doing.
Yeah,
He was guilty.
yes, very much so. So so it's important. So Christine, what are your thoughts with all of this?
I'm nervous about like taking like resting. I don't know if I'll be really good at that myself, to be honest. Yeah, because I feel like I'll be like one of those like birth adrenaline, like, okay, I'm good to go. Like, so I think that would be something I would struggle with.
Yeah. So part of that is self-care. We've got to model self-care for ourselves and also for the clients and the dads
Mhm.
and the midwives. We have to make it available for, like Monica did go lay down. We all took turns laying down because we created it such a continuity of trust that makes the whole experience much more positive for everybody.
Now, Monica told me that she also believed that mothers need to see that everybody going and relaxing and going and like sleeping,
Yep.
because she said that if you go and be like, okay, you need to have your time to rest, we're gonna rest.
Yep.
And she said then moms, like their bodies, she's like, you'll get like a little power nap for like the midwives, everyone gets their little power nap. And she said then the mother's body, like the kicking in from
Right.
resting and the melatonin from resting and being at night, she said then that's when labors just pick up and babies get born.
Yes. Right.
But that was what she told me from her experience, and I thought that was very interesting. But
And
she was a very, very big believer on that.
oh yeah, big time. And when you have so many women in the house, everybody's periods start to come into the same rhythm, right? In a mini way, we're creating that environment, that hormonal harmony. So it's important and to look forward to laying down, not to have ourselves on the adrenaline where our adrenals are just totally on.
Yeah, and when you're in labor and you're in pain and you just want this baby born, and then especially you're excited because you want this to happen, but then it's not happening fast enough, so your body's like
Yeah.
crazy. So I think I see like what she's saying with it is because when they're like, okay, we're the professionals and we're gonna go check out and lay down, then you're like, wait a second, I can relax a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe that's part of it too, because you're following their lead to realize like, okay, I can try to sleep. And they know it's not happening anytime soon. So I don't need to be on guard, like I can't sleep, I can't rest, it's gonna happen. You kind of can be like, okay.
Yeah.
I
So
that
just go ahead.
the mom was kind of looking at, she would kind of look around. She was looking for everybody's eyes. Like she did look at the one time where I was right in front of her right before she changed position the last time. She was kind of looking at me like, am I okay? Like, am I good? And I was like, yeah, sure, you're doing it. Like I didn't know what to do, but I was just, something in my head was like, tell her, keep going. And I was like, yeah. No, that's good. And she was like, okay. And then that's when she switched positions, and then the baby came.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, you're like the magic for her.
I was freaked out.
Like, her,
Scared. I'm like,
you helped her baby to know and listen to her body.
here.
Yeah, but she needed your reassurance and you gave it to her. And then look what happened. Then the baby was born. That was
Yeah.
your, like, literally, it was from you. And that's pretty awesome.
It really is.
Considering the cool part too, the considering about when you signed up for the classes, and you're only, how many classes did you have before?
We
your-
took class in.
Oh,
Yeah,
exciting. See?
see, that's an empowering statement. And then look at the reinforcement.
So awesome.
Now, did you need a certificate to do this?
No.
No. The certificate is there because we create a community of support.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody wants a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
But the most important piece of paper that we've gotten is our birthright to Christ, that we are here to serve one another.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing these other things, like getting our CPR and the NRP and, these things, they help us anchor what we already know. You saw that the mom wanted some adjustment on the pressure for her lower back.
Mm-hmm.
If we just look at the book and say, oh, pressure on the back, pressure on the hips, but we don't get any real human feedback, it's a theory, but now it's not theory. It's a practical experience that worked with reinforcement that worked. I can do that again. And having that eye contact that you did and holding hands, and she's really squeezing your hands. She grabbed a hold of your truth. So it's a piece of cake to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a birth partner and a birth worker or a doula, there are places. Did you feel confused during some of the labor time we were together?
Yes.
Yes. So will they.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we first walked in. They were confused. They didn't have a framework to know, anything.
Mm-hmm.
So even though we don't know the exact time the baby's going to be there, but our presence helped lower their anxiety.
Definitely.
It also helped them manage frustration.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Because our dad was very frustrated. He didn't want to be in the pool anymore. He was sweating buckets.
Yeah. Yeah. They they get waterlogged after a while.
Yeah.
And they don't want to get out to go to the bathroom, and they have to go to the bathroom. So, but just know that if we're aware of our emotions and we can communicate it with each other, because a lot of times we communicated, but we only communicated with eyes. Not necessarily did we say something that was happening, but we were saying, okay. And we did sit down, we did have coffee a number of times. And we did have food, depending on where it is. Sometimes we have to bring our own food. Sometimes the couples have some food.
Okay.
And if you're at a birth and you don't have anything, and the clients don't have anything, it's a little difficult. We have been at births where people have called, what do you call that? The Uber Eats or whatever.
Yeah.
But we want to stay nourished for ourselves. as well as mom. So the mom, if she's got her favorite foods, we're hitting her with those things. For us, hopefully they're healthy foods, they're not junk foods. We don't need to jack our own systems up with a lot of junk food.
Now,
That
should
can,
we bring some things like bring natural, like local raw honey? Should we bring that to like help with the blood sugar? Should we bring things like
yeah, so in your
like a
birth,
body armor or something,
Yep.
you know, to get coconut water and electrolytes? Like,
yeah, so having
Bring those
coconut water is huge for ourselves, also for the client. The good one, having the honey sticks,
yeah,
having those in your birth bag is good to have. You know, sometimes moms don't have it in the house, but we kind of go over some of those things when we're doing the prenatal visit to what's in the house. But that is one of the things to have if a mom is going in a really long labor. And we need to get, there's other packets, things that you can get that are labor support kind of packets that have like the Pedialyte mix with a glucose to it. So having Pedialyte mix, if we don't have that, that's how we can make it with the Celtic salt and the lemon. So at this last birth, I brought like 6 hard-boiled eggs and 3 avocados and 2 bananas and a bunch of tangerines. And ultimately, everybody ate something. They had 2 casseroles that they had pre-made, and the dad cooked up those 2 casseroles. Yeah. But it's nice to know that you have something quick to bite or eat in the car on the way. If it's an odd hour and you haven't eaten anything yet, the water bottle. If you have your water bottles, it's good to have your water bottles. So, yeah. We encourage the clients to call us as soon as they have a heads up about their labor, because we can arrange babysitting.
Mhm.
We can arrange appointments, change appointments. So the earlier we get that heads up, the better off we are. Then we're in communication. We might not show up at the birth right away, but I always set up a group chat with the people who are supposed to be at the birth with the client. So when the client texts, then we're all getting the alert at the same time, preferably that we're all getting the alert. And depending on what's going on, I prefer getting a call personally myself. I prefer, especially in the middle of the night, that they call me so I can talk to them, because I can hear more what's going on in their voice. And I can comfort them through that voice pattern to reassure them. And I could tell that this little guy, this dad, was really, really nervous. So when I told him we're coming, it made him feel better, but it didn't make him feel better until we were at his front door.
Especially with it being their first baby, it's a home birth.
Home birth.
So they don't know what to expect. They probably heard people saying it's gonna, what if something goes wrong? So they're scared. So it's a lot. I think it's a lot more on the plate.
Yes.
Yeah. Then I'm not saying it's less than somebody being nervous if they went to a hospital, but I think that there's a sense of fear sometimes dads have, and they want to be like a protector or a husband.
Yeah. That's why I tell them that we're the home court advantage.
Mhm.
And like I told this dad, I said, you hired us, you retained us to be your whole support system. You would have had a support system if you go to the hospital, but you're choosing a home birth. Now with that home birth, you still need personnel. And we are that personnel. You custom chose us to be your personnel. So we're managing all those pieces where somebody thinks they're rescued when they go to the hospital, right? I get to the hospital, now I'm going to be safe. And somebody else is going to know more than me, they can handle it. I mean, seriously. That's a belief system. It's not always true, but it's a belief system.
Or it's propaganda.
Yes, right. So the rules for the labor is according to their dates, right? So if we have somebody before 36 weeks, they are not a candidate for home birth. We need to notify the midwife or the practitioner, and we need to encourage them to go to the hospital.
Right.
Once they're at the 37 weeks, now that's a whole different topic because you've gotten your birthing tub, right? Babies, they believe, is pretty viable. And then we go from there. So especially if it's early in your pregnancy, 20 weeks, 28 weeks, they can, for 20 weeks, some of these little guys make it. They have a lot of challenges early on. But there may be a pound or just under a pound. Some of them made it. But where they go, what hospital they go to is going to make a big difference. So if they don't have a neonatal hospital, then that baby's got to be transferred to a facility that can manage these little people.
Mhm.
So they active labor used to be at 4 centimeters. Now they've changed the rules. Say active labor is 6 centimeters. Now, I find that interesting because they're short-staffed at the hospitals,
Mhm.
right? Before, if you were less than 4 centimeters, you could be sent home.
I just think this is very dangerous with this whole 6 centimeters, because I can go from like 5 to ready to
0.
go away. I mean, it can be within minutes. So I just can't imagine it's just me like that as a woman.
Right.
So I think that's very dangerous. But like you said, it's because they're short staffed, and I
Yeah.
think it's gonna have more people realize the value of having a home birth, because they're gonna be hearing a lot more people having births at home. And I
Yes.
just saw when someone posted, I mean, it was on TikTok, but they said the same thing. They wouldn't admit the mom. She had her baby at home.
Yeah.
Unassisted, like,
My cousin is in Indianapolis, and she said her hospital had no available birthing rooms, none whatsoever. So for a week straight, they just kept telling her to wait. She was like, I think she was right at her due date, maybe a few days past it, and she wasn't, like, I guess, progressing fast enough for them or whatever it was, and they just kept telling her, well, until you get to this, well, until you feel this, call us back, but we can't admit you until we have a room. We don't have a room. So for a week straight, I kept texting her, like, are you okay? Are you good? Are you in the hospital? She's like, nope, they still don't have a room. I'm just at home. I was like, how is that possible?
Oh, yeah.
so when she went into active labor, did they let her in, or?
Well, the baby was going to fall out by then. They didn't have a choice. I mean, she finally texted me and she was like, I'm on my way to the hospital finally. She's like, they're going to let me come in now. They finally got a room open. I was like, wow.
So how far along was she when she went to the hospital? Does she know?
I don't remember. This was last year.
Okay.
I think she was right her due date. She wanted to go in because I'm not sure what was happening. She wanted to go in to have them induce her for some reason. I don't know if it's because she's had multiple pregnancies. I want to say that was her 7th or 8th child.
Right.
So she was just ready to get it over with because she knew when she was done, she was going to go ahead and get her tubes tied. So she was just anxious to get everything over with.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yep. Gotcha. So most of the time when we show up to support somebody, their contractions are 4 to 5 minutes apart. The contractions are lasting at least 60 seconds long. And the mom is using her breathing, she's using her relaxation. Her attention is focused on those contractions. She's not talking through them. Those are usually what we're doing. And the humdinger contractions are back-to-back humdingers, not the startup contraction. Because then really that's 15 minutes apart. We need to be aware of if there's any medical situations or medical concerns that we might have for the mom. The hospitals, depending on where they're going, if the mom has done some good consumerism, she can find out what her practitioner's preference in their delivery style is in the visitation rooms when they're going for their prenatal appointments. If she finds a pattern, she starts asking the moms, well, how'd your birth go? Well, C-section, C-section, C-section. We know that that's a preference, a ching-ching preference.
Well, even induction rates now, you have to ask induction rates and
Mhm.
C-section rates
Yeah.
because it
And
seems
they won't necessarily tell you. But if you call the OB floor, usually in the evening, late evenings, and if we say, you know, I'm a childbirth educator, I'm a doula in the area, and I just want to get some information. I have a client who's thinking about coming to your hospital. You can ask them, you know, what's your C-section rate? What's your epidural rate? What's the episiotomy rate?
Mhm.
All those kinds of things. Or you can be in a Facebook chats with other doulas and has anybody delivered at this hospital or that hospital? What's it been like? How friendly have they been?
Now, I learned when I moved that a lot of mothers will like accept things as like the norm.
Yes.
Mhm.
So that's kind of hard too with gauging that.
Yes.
Because a lot of moms, it's very normal to go have inductions. I mean, I've had all my kids have been induced. I've never had a natural, like I had one was natural, but then they ended up giving me Pitocin anyways to speed it up to be faster for them. So I've never had like a full blown,
Sure.
you know, but I was young too, and so I just thought I did think it was normal, like this is what you do, like the doctor
Yeah.
said. So I just was like, okay, same thing with getting the epidurals. This is what you do. My doctor told me after you gave me that they broke my water and gave me the Pitocin my first one. I remember he told me, he goes, it's not a competition on like who handles labor better. You get your epidural. Why do you
Yeah.
need to make it like it's a like you're a winner? Like, and I was 21, so I was like, okay, I'll have that epidural. Like, you're right.
Mhm.
And you know what? I've had like every complication except being paralyzed from an epidural. And so, yeah, it's scary. Like, I had the spinal headache. I've had spinal headache. I've had it where I can't ever feel my body at all from the waist down.
Yeah.
At all. I had to make my blood pressure go super low that I ended up having to be rushed for an emergency C-section. So I've had like horrible. So when I had my one child at Edwards, they said they were good with, you know, I had to do a VBAC, and it was the only doctor I could find doing a VBAC because I was on a mission for a VBAC. And they didn't tell me until right before I was to deliver that, you know, I had to go in and have the baby, and then I had to be again induced because they wouldn't go past a certain rate. And they had me so freaked out because again, they said I had to have an epidural to have a VBAC. And my last baby I had to have emergency C-section because of the epidural. So I really did not want an epidural myself because I've had all these problems from epidurals. And it's scary. And that's probably what pushed me to wait to have the baby, that I needed to be induced with her because I was scared. I didn't want to be having this epidural again and ruining my birth plan. And I had to wait until I knew I transitioned to let them give me an epidural. And they kept coming in and saying, let's get your epidural. Let's get that epidural. You need your epidural, or else, you know, you can, if there's an emergency, we're going to knock you out and you're going to be passed out cold and you won't see your baby. And continuous. It was sickening. So, but nobody talks about that. Like, I was doing all the research on all the mom pages, asking questions, and people recommended, like, that's the place to go. Yeah, no. I wouldn't throw a horse over there, like. And it's just scary to me. And the nurse was just so like, okay, here you go, your epidural, and then just, yeah, they just kept wanting it and wanting it, and that's kind of scary too to me, like having this whole push to have an epidural. So it's scary.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. I felt like there's just all these other like ulterior motives with everything, and
Sure. Because you're managed. They're managing your whole birth.
yeah. And me, I made it until I transitioned. I knew I was shaking. I knew I've had enough kids. I knew how my body works. I had that epidural, and the nurse is like, oh, I thought you were transitioning. I thought we were about to have the baby and just getting this epidural and then have the baby. And she's like, you're not, but she's like, you're only 5 centimeters. And I was like, well, give me 15 minutes and I'll be ready to have the baby. She laughed at me. She thought I didn't know what I was talking about. She walked out, we had the lights out. I just closed my eyes to like rest my body to relax. And then we called her back in. I'm ready to have the baby's coming. She didn't believe us at first. The doctor almost didn't come in time. They had to rush in. She thought she was going to catch the baby. Like, don't push, don't push, don't push.
How did you feel the baby coming out? Because from what I remember with the epidural, I didn't feel anything. With my son, they had to tell me that I was pushing because I couldn't feel it.
And I always feel it.
Like, I was so lethargic and I just wanted to sleep that they just kept having to like push me up, and I was just like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't. And they were like, are you I'm pushing? I don't know. What do you want me to? They're like, you need to push. And I'm like, well, I can't feel anything to push, so I don't know what to do. Like, it was awful.
Like, yeah, we have total different like epidural. See, for me, I can't move my legs at all, and they're like blown up huge. I can't move. I can't, like, it's hard like trying to move to the side with, I need help. I can't touch my legs, but I can feel the throbbing in my vagina, like your whole vagina. I can feel the like throbbing. And then when the baby comes, you feel it like you need to go poop.
Yeah. That's the only thing I felt. I felt that right on my phone, like I was gonna use the bathroom, but that was all I felt. And
yeah, that's like, all you feel. You don't feel like that ring, like, yeah.
I didn't, but at the time I didn't know that's what that was. I just thought I had to go to the bathroom, and I was like, I was so tired. I just wanted to sleep, and I was just, I could care less what they did. Like, I was just like, just pull it out. They were like, you can't pull him out. You have to push him out. And I was like, I don't know where he is to push him out. Like, I was talking crazy. I remember it. Just like, oh, I don't feel him. I can't push anything if I don't feel it. Right. I was like, do I have legs? I don't feel my legs. And like, I was so upset. Like, I was crying. I was like, I can't handle this. And they literally had to, like, a nurse was like sitting behind me, like pushing me forward, like shaking me, like, look, focus, just push. And I was like, okay. Like, that's how it happened. And I guess I pushed enough to push him out, but like, I couldn't feel anything.
It was probably just your body, like, you know, that natural fetal ejection, honestly. Mm-hmm. But that's scary.
It is.
It is scary.
And they probably would keep telling you, like, go ahead, keep doing it this way. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they gave me too much because, well, whatever they did, because both epidurals I got completely jacked my back up. As of now,
I have it. Can you still feel it? I can feel every time. Like I
That's
still feel it.
right in the center of my back. If I lay in bed too long, I start feeling it feels like someone's like with a needle just sitting there poking me straight in that spot, that one spot. And
They
like
tell you, like you can't feel it. You'll never feel it again.
it never goes away. Even now, just sitting here this long is driving me crazy. I went from the birthing ball to the bed to the I'm about ready to sit on the floor because my back is terrible.
So if you use cranial sacral and you use a fascia release, it'll release the trauma in the back.
What's
Oh.
that?
Fascia release, because the tissue, it's a very fine tissue that holds the skin and holds the muscles together, and it's like tiny little cellophane. And because there's trauma there, the cellophane has got a memory pattern that's holding that tension tight. So if you can get a massage called the fascial release, they can help release it. Deb Lawrence is phenomenal. She's up here. Her company's Magic Hands. And she's a doula, a childbirth educator, and a massage therapist, cranial sacral therapist. She has amazing hands. And it releases, it has memory. Same thing with the baby. If you have the baby have a cranial sacral and a fascia release, it releases the tension. So especially like if a baby had a cord around its neck when it's born and stuff, all that tension is still there. So the kids will have different things show up later on in life in their health because that tension in that fascia is holding still. So I highly recommend those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But listen to, when you're listening to this conversation with the two of you, how much support each of you needed.
Yeah.
And what it would have done for both of you to have that support. Now, the doula can't be the one to say, no, we're going to take a shower instead of getting an epidural, right? And it's not best practices to induce a VBAC mom. Hello, just FYI. They frown upon that.
Yeah, see, I've had it, so.
Yeah, but but these are lessons learned, right?
You know what? I felt like I had no other option. I know I wanted to be back. I didn't want to have a C-section again. I thought it was horrific, to be honest, like in comparison to a vaginal birth for recovery.
Right.
My stomach is still messed up from it. So I did not want to repeat. So I felt backed into a corner. I only had the only doctor who could do it, and he would only do it if I would go and have that Pitocin because I wasn't naturally going into labor by his time frame. And so I did it. I was like, okay, go. I figured, you know what, I've always had Pitocin, and I just had to keep that whole mindset. And but I think that helps a lot when you're in labor. I think moms need to have that mindset, because if we don't have that mindset, or they don't have that mindset, and we don't help them have a mindset to understand, that's how you're going to go in the wrong direction.
Correct.
So I feel like that's going to be important for us, like to give them that good mindset and help instill it to them. And if they're questioning it, and be like, wait, no, stop, let's readjust, because
rethink this whole thing. And because of your experiences, you guys are going to be able to speak to those specifically that have been called to you. They're already on their way. We don't know who these women are, who these babies are, but energetically you put yourselves out there and said, I'm going to be available, and you will resonate. The resonance will attract them to you. Once you once you put out the flag, you know, on your front door, it's going to show up, you know. We want to always get feedback from the mom. Like, where are you feeling it? What are you thinking? We want to see her develop ritual patterns, whether it's a humming, a rocking. You'll find these moms will find some kind of a rhythm of some sort that gets them through.
Mhm.
Just so happened this mom, one of her rhythms was the screaming. That was her rhythm. That's how I could sleep. So
Is that very common though?
screaming can be most, because now they did childbirth classes online. They didn't do any in person.
Mhm.
And she specifically was getting her needs met. The yearnings list that I sent you, she's looking at the yearnings list. She wanted to be seen, heard. She wanted to be understood. That's how her yearnings were acting out.
Yeah, because it sounds like the screaming was for her husband to sympathize more for her.
Yes.
It's how it sounds, but I don't want to like assume or judge her, but it sounds like, yeah, like that's how she felt.
It
Okay,
was.
for you to be like, understand, I'm doing all this, we're gonna make sure you hear. No,
Yes.
but I don't-
Yeah. So it's really key when we're using the color cards to learn people's communication styles and the yearnings list, because we can observe with a different insight. And we can still be compassionate without necessarily judging her, but seeing how the human behavior shows up. And we does with our kids, with ourselves. Yeah. So we're assessing the mom and how she's feeling throughout the whole process. Now, we can't be annoying every 2 minutes, like, well, where are you feeling that? What are you thinking? Whatever.
Mhm.
But we do want feedback every once in a while. So I'm sure, Marilyn, you heard me ask her here and there, where are you feeling it? What's happening?
You knew the exact time to ask her, really. So it didn't seem like you were like really trying to ask her specifically that. It was more of like, it kind of fit into whatever we were doing. If we were switching a position or if we were trying to do something different, you kind of slid it in right there. So it worked. It was perfect.
It was natural, more of a natural question.
Right.
Yeah. So we're looking for her progress through her behavior, her emotions, her labor pattern. We're constantly in observation. So
I did know she kind of was, she was annoyed when it felt like she was a fish in the fishbowl.
yes.
I did that when everybody was just kind of staring at her in the pool, like even her husband was outside and she was kind of like annoyed. I think that's when he decided that they were going to go in the room and just be, and she was just like, you know, I could see it in her face. She was like, I am tired of everybody staring at me. This isn't going anywhere. You guys are pressuring me to hurry up. And it's not, that's what she felt like.
Yeah, that feeling of performance is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
And we have that if you're going to a hospital setting or you're going to a home birth setting. So that's why we try to have other rooms that we could go into.
Right.
This house was a small home and it didn't have air conditioning in the one bedroom where everybody was trying to lay down. But we'd hang out in the kitchen, whatever.
Just made the best of it.
We did. And everybody had something to do when time came to really push to shove, there was something for everybody to do. There was no lack of need.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Somebody
Okay.
was wet, sweat. Somebody had the water jug. Somebody had a leg. Somebody had a hand. Somebody had. There's literally every one of us were every single one of us was doing something.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's exciting.
So the birth assistant, they're going to be taking blood pressures, pulse, temperatures. We want to make sure that the urine is flowing, getting the mom up every 2 hours at least to go to the bathroom.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. Towards the end, she said she couldn't go.
Right.
What does that mean? Like, what's that about?
So eventually, sometimes the mom's bladder gets swollen.
Mm-hmm.
The urine is stuck, but the tissue beyond it, below it, is swollen, and it won't release the urine. And we have to get the urine out to get the head down. Otherwise, it's going to hold the head there.
Okay.
It'll block it. So we did do a catheter with this mom.
Right.
And she got about a cup and a half, but the cup and a half is a lot of space for a little head.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on what's happening with that mom, if she's not progressing with the contractions the way she should have been with this, that became a real thing. And the way Rachel handled it, I thought she explained everything, waited until the mom said yes. She wouldn't take action until the mom gave permission.
Yeah, I like that she wasn't like forcing her, and she was explaining it to her, not telling her, look, this is what we're going to do right now. Let's go. It was more of, we need to do this because, and then the mom, she looked a little afraid, but she was like, okay, well, that makes sense.
Right. And that's good quality care when you're educating, empowering all at the same time. Because then the mom feels like she is in control.
Right.
And if we have moms who have had some kind of trauma, just taking the reins and saying, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, isn't going to help that client at all. We are not planning on re-charging oops that happened in a previous experience.
Right.
So when we were, what was the type of things, even for her getting a catheter, what was the type of things that we were supporting her with? Do you remember?
What do you mean?
How were we as doulas supporting her?
Well, before the catheter, I could hear you and Jessica kind of like coaching her and encouraging her to just try. And even if it meant just sitting on the toilet and she was just like, no, I don't want to, like, it was just that support, letting her know that it's okay. You're kind of telling her, I understand, but it's really good if we get the urine out, and kind of explaining to her, like you said, with the baby's head being able to come down more. And she was just like, well, if it's going to help me move along, I heard her say it. She was like, if it's going to make the baby come down, let's do it. Like,
yeah. So we are always kind of like reacting on the spot with each client and who they are, their personalities. We learn really fast what works well and what doesn't. Doesn't work well, mom's going to tell you so fast. And we just want to keep it back down to homeostasis. Let's just get this baby out and the least response of distress.
Right.
So okay. So moving through the stages of labor, and once we have baby out, we're doing a whole other type of support. In the water birth situation, Christine, you did or you didn't have a water birth?
I did have a water birth. I like literally got in to deliver and that was it.
Okay. So what was your doula doing for you at
You know,
that moment?
she was right behind me. And I remember, because as soon as I get in, I was pushing. The baby was coming right out. And I remember that the baby came out like right away, push, the baby's head started coming out. And then Monica's like, grab the baby. And I was like, what? Like, because
Mhm.
again, I'm used to the hospital. So I've never heard this, like, grab my own baby. Like, I'm thinking, and then I was thinking, honestly, thinking, what is she doing? Why isn't she getting this kid out of me? Like, I've never, once you do this, they grab them out of you. Like, you don't do
Right.
any further. Like, what is going on? And she was like, grab the baby. And I guess I just like pushed, and I guess I did grab the baby and I brought her up and Monica helped, but my doula was, as soon as I sat down and I started like ready to go, she just was encouraging me and she was just like, oh, you know what, you got, like, this is great. And then she was like, I remember, because it was like only like 2-3 push, and she was telling me like, go on, grab the baby. Yeah, like encouraging like what Monica said. And I'm thinking like, what in the world? Like, I thought it was crazy, but I guess to me it was like a long time. But the midwife Monica, she was like, no, it was like right away. I told you this, and then you were like, boom, like grab done. And I was like, oh, I thought it was a long time. Like I waited, like, what's going on? I guess what happens in your head, you don't realize in real time.
Right.
And I remember after she came and I had her, and I was kind of like, whoa, this all just happened. And I had her, and then my doula was telling me, she was like, talk to her. Because the baby didn't like cry, nothing. She just was like looking around at me, and she's like, just talk to her. And like, and she was taking pictures of my whole birth. Like
Right.
she took pictures as soon as I got in, and she just kept taking pictures, which I really appreciated, because
Right.
otherwise I wouldn't have had any pictures of and she also videoed like that coming out. And so it was
What position were you in the tub when you delivered?
oh, this is another funny part, because I'm used to the hospital, right? So I literally like, I'm at the last point where I like needed this baby out. It was coming out and I felt like I couldn't walk anymore. I was like, I don't know if I can even like make that step to get in the tub. And Monica's like, you're there, like you can do it. Don't worry. And she's like helping me get in. And I got in and I just sat down, and because I needed to get the baby out. Like I was like, whoa. And I sat down and I felt like that relief of pain for a quick second.
Mhm.
And then Monica was like, oh, you're probably used to always being in this position from all your other births. And I'm thinking, what? Yeah. And I'm just thinking, getting this kid out. Like, so I didn't even think of anything else. I just wanted to like get in this water. I just need this baby out instead of like trying other positions. So of course, because I was like sitting like this, having the baby like a hospital, so I did tear a little because of that.
Sure.
So if I didn't have that position, even though I knew and I've read all the books, it always went back to what I knew.
Yes.
And did. And I knew I needed this baby was coming out. So I did what I knew from my experience.
Right.
And even though it was negative, I still would tear. But yeah.
But so just, it's not the head that tears, it's usually the shoulder.
Mhm.
So the shoulder,
I have heads for my babies, but
because of the speed in which she's coming, right? Their little feet are pushing up against that uterus, and they're like, I'm out of here.
yeah, I know Monica told me, because like we had the meconium, and she's like, oh yeah, she's like, oh no, it was because the baby came so fast.
Yeah.
That's how come you had meconium, and the cord was right there. And she's like, that's all a combination of it. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I had no idea. And she's like, yeah, it's just that trauma of being so fast.
Yes, it's very.
But
and it's interesting because on the baby side, we have to be sensitive to listen to the baby. The baby's going to tell its story to you.
Yeah, and it was so different with the doula being like, just talk to her, talk to her. You had the baby, you did great. Like, and talking and taking the pictures and having the videos. And then afterwards, she just stayed like so supportive too. Like when we, immediately after we had the baby, I mean, because it was meconium at the top, it's gross. So you have to like get up. We got up pretty quick. And then, yeah, we got up and then we walked over to the bed and then finished everything.
Sure.
She just kept like staying there and taking pictures and talking and being positive, but then let the midwives do, what needed.
Yeah, the three of us took pictures at different times,
Mm-hmm.
but I got one right over the top of the mom, and I've learned to keep the videos short so I can
Yeah.
send them to their phone, where I've done longer stretches, but they don't send very well.
Mhm.
And if we're not iPhone to iPhone,
Yeah, it doesn't work.
it doesn't work. It's difficult. So that's an important piece, depending on where you are in the process of the birth. Hospital settings are always different than the home settings.
Yeah, they don't let you record that.
Hospitals will, depending on the hospital and the doctor.
Mm-hmm. Everyone that I've had, I think it was my children's father, his sister, and like my cousin was there for my first 2 deliveries. And they've all been like recording. And then right when it gets to the part where the doctor's getting, like he says the baby's coming, he's like, you could see him waving them away, like
Right.
telling them cameras away.
Yeah.
Guess that liability.
Yeah.
It is a liability issue.
Which is sad because it's such a beautiful thing to
It is. That's something I would love to have had.
Yeah, and you would have had some feedback. Oh, I think I told you, but you said the hospital's no longer there. Westlake, right? Westlake Hospital. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always encourage the moms to order their hospital records and the nurse's notes if they've had a trauma or they've had a C-section, so that we can piece back the birth experience. And there's a grieving process that happens for those who have had traumatic births, right? This helps anchor them to see, so many times we take it on, it was our fault. We blame ourselves. But there's a whole dynamic of stuff happening. And so by looking at the facts, it calms the clients down, puts things in perspective, and helps them work through that process. Especially if it's a C-section who wants to have a VBAC. They know what kind of suturing they got, what was the reason, the presentation, the different facts. The nurses usually have a lot more detail, but when you ask for your medical records, if you don't ask for the nurse's notes, they will not submit them. You must request the nurse's notes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So those are helpful. Okay, so now that we have baby, and you shared your experience of what your doula was doing, you can see how you can be supportive for your client.
Can I ask you a question?
Yep.
Was it the midwife in training? What was her name?
Emily.
Yeah, I kept calling her the other Emily. Yeah, she told me to feel the cord before they cut it, and I wasn't ready. I couldn't do it. Why did she want me to do that?
Because it's important to know that the placenta is still producing blood, oxygenated blood to the baby. 1/3 of the total blood volume of the baby is still in the placenta.
Mhm.
And you actually will see it. Like, it was the first time I ever was able to have like a delayed cord camping. And then after, like, I went to the bed, and then that's when we delivered the placenta. So the
Mhm.
placenta was delivered, and then Monica put my placenta in a plastic bag. You might have saw it with that client. And then they have it like to the side, but not where you see it, but it's still right there with the baby. But you'll
Mhm.
see that cord having like that bluish color, right? To
Mhm.
going completely white and getting cold after a while. It's
Oh,
amazing.
is
It's
it?
amazing.
Yeah,
Oh yeah. And you'll see the placenta too. It's just like it gets different. Like,
right.
yeah. It's so like to see, because your placenta has that big like purpley like color and stuff, and then you see with this umbilical cord, at first you'll see it. You
Mhm.
see like, in there, and it's totally different color and shape, and by the time they cut it, it's totally, you're not having blood squirting out like
No.
normal. No
Mhm.
blood.
There's something called the Wasserman jelly. So as soon as the air starts to hit it, it starts to coagulate.
Mhm.
Starts to slow and cut off the circulation. But
Mhm.
as long as it is still pulsing, there's still oxygenated blood going to baby, which is a good thing. Because baby internally, what's happening with baby is it's trying to make a transition from high oxygenated blood from the cord to now
Mhm.
switching to lungs. And everything that needs to be shut down inside the body is being shut down, and baby has got to figure out how to keep its lungs to take in a breath and inflate, take in a breath and inflate, take in a breath and inflate. So it can take 6 breaths or so before the baby actually really gets a strong breath. And
Mhm.
they have to absorb it. It's like at least this much liquid out of the lungs.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like your little insurance package to get
Yeah.
that baby transitioned over.
Right. So is there any benefit to lotus birth, or is that kind of overdoing it?
Lotus birth meaning, how do you mean
Oh,
lotus birth?
it's like
Right.
somebody literally takes their babies like with the baby connected to the placenta still, and they like, put it in a pot and like with soil and let it naturally fall off, and then you
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
there's there's really no, it's okay. There's really it's a ritual that somebody might choose. We
Mhm.
don't we have not been with anybody to do that.
Okay.
In 4,000 verse, I've not.
it's becoming very common.
Is it?
And a lot of the
It's
stuff on YouTube was a lot of the moms, I, not to
yeah.
sound right, Black moms are starting to, that I've seen on YouTube, that are starting to want to do lotus births, and I was just wondering if it was something to it.
If a mom is being our baby's being transported, it's a good idea to keep that warm placenta next to baby, wrap them together, because it's kind of like a heating blanket. It helps the baby keep its temperature, but once the temperature gets cold, it's not value. It'll actually drain the baby of the temperature, and babies have a hard time holding their temperature.
Okay.
So, yeah. And the cords, I don't know how long it would take for it to fall off, but the cord falls off in 10 days.
The lady that I YouTube, she said probably around the third or fourth day, it was like just like real dry and brittle, and it almost like broke. So
Interesting. Yeah, I've not experienced that.
And then what is the purpose of them not allowing you to take your placenta in the hospital?
They sell them. They're
They
worth
sell
money.
them. They sell them for $45,000 or more.
No, yeah, well, I was told mine was gonna be like at least 80,000 because I was unvaccinated.
Yeah,
Are you serious?
I'm
Yep.
dead serious.
So why do they lie instead of just telling you they're going to sell it?
Because a lot of money.
Because
It's a
yeah,
business. It's a business.
it's the sidebar. It's
It's
Because
scary.
a friend who came, a lady I work with was saying that her daughter was gifted a doula in the hospital, and she was telling me about her whole experience and everything. And then she was like, her daughter was really upset because she really wanted her placenta, and they told her that it was infected and that they had to get rid of it right away. I was
Yeah,
like, well, why lie to you instead of just telling you the truth?
so
Because
if it had meconium, if you had meconium or you had an infection, that's something different.
I don't know. I mean, I had meconium and I got my placenta. They didn't take
But
it.
did you encapsulate it?
No,
Yeah. So
I don't. I mean, that's just me though. As a Christian, I
right.
don't believe it.
So what did you do with it? Did you plant it under a tree or what?
No, I just listened to Monica. We waited. Well, she said, "Oh, just put it in the freezer, and then on garbage day, take it out." But then because I didn't put it in the freezer, and then I still had to be like on like taking it easy after I had the baby. It got like lost in the freezer land of having a big family. We have lots of freezers.
Right.
I didn't even know what freezer it was in. I don't know
Yep.
where it was. And then our big deep freezer, and I never found it. I was like, where is this placenta? And I was telling my husband, I'm like, the placenta, one day we're gonna take it out and find this placenta. And then the freezer, our deep freezer died out on us. And then I had to take everything out and try to like make room in the other two like house fridge freezers.
Right.
And so I found the placenta. So I was like, I found the placenta and I threw it out. I was like, oh, I'm glad you found it because I thought it'd be so funny. I was like, oh my gosh, can you imagine? My husband was very grossed out about this. So he did not want to be finding a placenta, and he thought even the kids, I knew they would not want to find it. So I just thought it was so funny when I found it. I was
Yeah,
like, oh,
I
the
would tell
placenta.
people in my house, don't just take anything arbitrarily out of my freezer. I had 7 frozen placentas when I called the DuPage County Sheriff's Department to come and get them for the
Oh my
canine search and rescue team.
Oh, see.
Yeah.
See, I just didn't feel safe, honestly, to give my placenta and how things are now anymore. I feel like they kind of know everybody and where people, I don't know. It's not like a conspiracy theorist, but I just didn't feel safe and comfortable. So I felt mine was safer tossed out than donating it to those kind of things.
No. So, has this been helpful this evening?
extremely.
Good. I'm
Yeah.
glad. I'm glad.
I loved hearing that first story from you. It just sounds amazing. Like, even your face, like I can tell it was life changing. Like
It was.
yeah.
Everybody asked me, how was it? I'm like, I'm like, I was so happy. It was so exciting. Like, great.
I mean, really, your whole face is so lit up. You are smiling from ear to ear. I can tell you are
Yeah.
amazing just by how you're excited about it.
Love it. Can't wait to do it again.
It'll be wonderful.
And you can look for clients. You can look for clients, and so just so you know, and those bursts count if you do find a client, and let them know I'm a student, and you can, do a sliding scale as far as what you're willing to, contribute. So $100, $200, $300. So nothing's holding you back. If you know somebody from church or something, a friend who's going to have a baby, you can offer the services because you've been to one.
Wow. I swear, it's like I don't want to do anything else. Like, if I could just spend the entire day reading my books and watching different videos on YouTube, like that's all I want to do lately. And it's really bothering me because it's like I don't want to go to work. I don't want to do anything. I want to deliver baby or help deliver baby. I don't want to do
Do you
anything
listen
else.
to podcasts though at your work since you're a mail? Like, do you carry mail?
I don't
So
care.
thinking,
I just process
okay.
orders for the carriers. So all night long, my headphones are in, and I'm listening to different things, be it stuff that's working on, like you said, self-care and changing my mindset and figuring out trying to get rid of the traumas that I went through. Like I'm always literally 24 hours a day now. Even when I'm sleeping, I put on um meditative music and like the healing frequencies and all this different stuff that I've never done before. But it's like this class is like transformed me. I'm doing things that I've never even thought I would do. Like
You look into like essential oils too.
I'm starting to.
Yeah, that's another great one to incorporate with everything.
Yeah.
I need to do that. Yeah. Thank you. I'm gonna look into that.
They are really helpful. I use them
They
all the time.
are.
They're great. Did
Yeah.
you feel though, having like being a part of the home birth, did you feel it was healing for your own trauma?
Yes.
Being like a different way to give birth?
Yes. Yes. Like I was so proud of her. I was like, you delivered this baby on your terms when you were ready. And it was like when she was finally like, okay, I've had it, like Carol said it, you gotta get frustrated. You gotta say you've had enough and you want this baby out. And after we talked to her and we had that little talk with her, and I kept saying, you have to talk to her, tell her, okay, mommy needs a break. I'm done. Let's go. Like after she got there, I saw it in her face. Like when she finally laid back that final time, she was like, okay, all right. Like it was almost like, fighters like crack their knuckles and they,
Yeah.
all right, let's do it. And it's like, I love that. I was like, oh my God.
And it cracked me up because I wanted her to feel the baby's head, and she realized how close she was.
Yeah.
And it really did anchor. That's one of the big things I always encourage the moms to do. And I tell them in our prenatal visits that I'm going to offer that you feel, and I'm going to encourage you to feel the baby's head.
Christine, she was like, no.
Really?
She was like, no. It's like, how dare you offer? Like the look on her face was like, I'm not doing that. And then finally when she was like, okay, fine, because I can't remember her name.
Monica.
Monica was like, the baby's right there. Do you want to feel? And you were just like, I'm telling you. And she's like, fine, because everybody was telling. She's like, okay, fine. She's like, oh, okay. And that's when she was able to just go ahead and push her out.
Well,
Literally.
it really is a quick moment then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She really connected to I think most of us are we have this image that the baby's so far away.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you find out, you're only you're just like you're wiping your bottom, and you
This
can
much.
yeah. She goes, I can feel it's this much. And
Yeah.
it did help. She did say it helped afterwards.
Yeah.
At the time, she had the reaction like you did. What? Touch the cord? No.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's okay. I thought placentas, because in the hospital they have those like big bowls. So I had like this huge Tupperware bowl, and Monica's like, what is this for? And I was like, placenta. And she started laughing at me. She's like, they're not that big. And so she's like, see, look at it. This is what it looks like. Doesn't it like? It was so funny. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's totally different.
The dad, when we went to do the prenatals, he had this huge silver bowl. He had like two. He had a glass one, like super heavy. Like he was like, I don't know which one you want. He's like, I got more in the kitchen. It was hilarious.
We told him no glass. Whatever you do, no glass.
Well, it's like this big unknown. You don't have any idea.
Yeah.
And boiling the water, you always hear the story, boil water. And
yeah. Oh, that's exciting.
we did have fun. So okay.
I learned.
We stopped at page 83.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an opportunity to finish going through the stages of labor, that would be good. Okay.
Okay.
So.
And then is it just finish the rest of the book by next Sunday, or?
So what we're doing, we're working on the different chapters. So let's finish processing this section, because it's really a meat and potatoes part about what we're doing.
Okay.
Because I want to read it again, because I didn't stuff that you were bringing up just now. Right.
So, and then we will go into another section once the challenge has been is just trying to get everybody in a room.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's
But the
hard.
conversations have been really, really good, each class. It's been
Mhm.
really good. So I did record them, and I'm putting it up in my YouTube. So I can
Oh.
send you the links to the ones that I have recorded if you
Okay.
want to re-listen
Yeah, because I know I listened to the one from last week.
last
'cause
week. Yeah.
it's been like a crazy. So I was like, I don't
Yeah.
even have a chance. Just
We were
finding-
talking about pricing and how to all sorts of different topics.
Okay.
And then I finally said, okay, is everybody ready to start reading?
Okay.
And that's where we came. When we're looking at books, and this is the important part, when you get the books, I encourage you to read the chapter that starts your interest,
Okay.
the
Mhm.
discovery of what interests you, and go from there. Instead of like somebody who has to read from the front to the back. I want to know what inspires you as you're reading.
Mhm.
And like Marilyn said, I said some really good ideas and things that she took notes on. That's your roadmap. That's the author and you having a conversation, and you're taking home the gems that the author has inspired.
Mhm.
So, anyways, yeah. Well, I hope you guys have a wonderful week. You can call me anytime. I'm going to check on this mom. So Christine, if you do get a call, I will give you early enough heads up
Okay.
with this mom
Um, is tomorrow good for them, Carol?
to visit Sarah and Ryan for their postcard.
Who?
Yeah. Who are you
Emily.
talking about?
Emily and
Yeah, Stefan.
yeah,
Yeah,
Steven. Emily and Steven.
yeah, yeah. Just give him a call. She has a cold. She put in.
Oh, we'll wait a few days then.
She needs to have the visit.
Okay.
So, anyways, yeah. Just take your vitamins and stay self-care.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
You're not working tonight.
I am.
Oh, you are. So you got to leave.
Get dressed now. Yeah.
All right. Well, good night, sweethearts.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Good night.
Night. Have a good night at work.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.